today we had the Minister down yesterday to look at some of the projects. He looked at a wood producer and some boilers that we have, I suppose, been involved with, for want of a better word, and maybe try and give you the key lessons from what we've done over the past number of years, and that might help you in your future work. So I suppose to start, there's a term that's been used certainly in the Republic, Local Energy Supply Company. Before that we would have used a term called ESCO, or Energy Supply Company. I may trip over and call them both, but I mean the same thing. In 2008, a new pool was built in Tipperary, and as part of that pool we had convinced the powers that be to install a biomass boiler, which was a subcontract to the main contract. And as a result of that, the biomass boiler was not necessarily installed in the best technical solution. It wasn't integrated very well with the existing boiler, and what would happen is hot water from the oil boiler would go back off and switch off the biomass boiler, and it was hunting up and down. And it is now more or less a success, but it's still a little bit behind, and we still have a little bit more to do. And at that stage we were hearing words from the likes of the Department of Education saying biomass boilers don't work for schools, biomass is crap, for want of a better word. And at the same time we were doing a lot of European projects that were saying this is the norm, this works, it's fine. And even, I know a lot of the people in the room were in Austria last week, and you walk through a trade show hall that has 1,000 biomass boilers, old technology at this stage, well developed. Why can we not do it right in Ireland? So we learnt from that lesson. And over the last number of years, I suppose from 2010 to 2012, we procured and contracted a number of biomass boilers for public and semi-state sector over in Tipperary. All of those are running very well, all of those are delivering lots of savings, all of those are negating the need to import a lot of oil. I'm not saying they didn't have problems, but they were all solved, and they were solved by the people who should solve them. They are the people who design and operate them. And North Tipperary County Council has over 80% of its heat load is renewable. The 3 pools and the largest water treatment plant are all on biomass, and we have 2 or 3 more buildings that are burning small quantities of oil, and hopefully they'll be on biomass by the end of the year. Very quickly, a little bit of a case study. So this is the Thurles Leisure Centre and Library, Art Centre, Cafe complex. It's 2 different buildings, essentially, separated by about 80 metres of district heating pipe. A 550 kilowatt boiler supplies the pool and the cafe and so on. Simple payback of 30 months without grant aid. There was, at the time, after we had procured it, the Department of Tourism, Transport and Sport had given a grant for energy efficiency in leisure centres and renewable energy, which brought it to about 5.5 months for the Town Council, so it was an easy decision for the accountant, which is lovely, and I'd love more of that. But in reality, this is buying local wood chip, grown around Thurles, processed by a processor in Thurles who we visited yesterday, and supplied into the boiler and delivering significant savings. Obviously that's a lovely building. You know, leisure centres are perfect for biomass because you have a big year-round heat load. You have interior temperatures of 30 degrees, you have hot water, you have showers and so on all year round. And just that's on the left-hand side, that's the biomass building. You can see the flue up the top, and that little hatch is the delivery for the chip, so a little conveyor on the back of the truck dumps it in. I won't go into the design of anything else. I think it's a French boiler, but delivering significantly. So this was our last biomass project that we did. Much smaller heat load, in this case only 140,000 kilowatt hours, or about 12 grand or 18 grand of oil a year. Much smaller. We did a an energy efficiency retrofit. So we pumped the cavity walls, we did air tightness work, put in heating controls. There was a number of electrically heated areas, including chlorine regasification and so on. Put everything onto one circuit and ESCO'd the whole lot. Zero cost to the local authority. They pay the finance over 7 years, fixed amount per month for 7 years, and they pay for whatever heat they use. It's very important. I'll talk about why we've structured it that way. We had some grant aid from the Better Energy Workplace scheme at the time, which was an SEAI scheme. And essentially what that did is that paid the finance cost of the money for the contractor. We added up that at the 9% at the time, because if we go back to 2010, our banks weren't very healthy. That's what he was paying on interest. And this reasonably small, it's an 80 kilowatt boiler, but energy efficiency and renewable energy paid back over 7 years in terms of simple payback terms, and the grant paid back the interest cost. Now, I know the government is putting in place, I think it's due to launch any day now, a financing scheme, but I would hope that it's significantly lower in interest rate, and I'm slightly worried that it won't be that much lower, but I'd like to see the 1%, 2%, 3% that the Austrians and Germans and Swedish and Danish talk about in terms of finance costs for renewable energy come from the scheme. So I suppose I put all of the pieces of advice that I want to give in one slide. We've done this a lot. We've learned from poorly built installations. We have 4 contracts that are up and running, 4 different suppliers, working very well, holding the contractors accountable to doing what they should do, and not putting undue risk on them. And my view of how it should be done, and we're working with the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland on the local energy supply contract to hopefully have this replicated across the country. So what we've done is we've done a short build contract, or a short form build contract, a standard construction contract, and a heat supply contract of between 3 and 7 years. At the beginning we did 3 years. We thought that would be encourage the market to keep the price down. Now we think give a longer term and an index rating that allows the contractor not take fuel price risk on biomass. 2-stage, so pre-qualification, shortened down to a small number of people to who really can deliver the project, and at that stage tender it out on the basis of a life cycle costing, so capital cost plus fuel supply over a period. And some very important things that I might say. Public bodies and private sector often get very concerned about, what if I ask for the wrong thing? So what if I ask for a 2 megawatt boiler and I only need a 1 megawatt boiler and it doesn't run efficiently, and all that sort of thing. I say don't ask for the size of a boiler. Give the contractor your fuel bills and say, I want to buy renewable heat. I will buy renewable heat. You tell me what size you think makes sense. You're the expert. I'm not. I'm only a pool manager or whatever it is. And let them pay for the fossil fuel and the biomass and give you a price. So if their boiler goes down, you don't care, because the fossil fuel backup will pick up and they'll be there the following day, because every hour that runs, they'll lose money. And whether the boiler provides 80% of the peak load or 60% of the peak load or 100% of the peak load, and the efficiency, I suppose, hurt that they'll give by oversizing the biomass and undersizing the fossil fuel share, they take that risk, and they use their own expertise from running multiple projects that they know what's right. Let the contractor organise the fuel supply chain. So there was lots of questions or lots of detail earlier on about a new company forming, couldn't meet public procurement. My view is the biomass supply chain is quite new. There's lots of new players in the market, and we want to encourage even more new players. Let the person who's running the boiler source the fuel. Let them go out, let them get their boots dirty, let them see the quality of the forestry, let them make sure that the processing is done right and it's dried right, because in reality, most people who have a heat load are concerned with either producing widgets, keeping a swimming pool open, running and building, not biomass supply chain. It's reasonably complicated. It's not that complicated once you're in it, but reward them for doing their job well, and be very clear of what you're paying for and what risk you're offloading. So if you want a fixed price for 10 years, even though you currently take all the fuel price risk, if you want to offload that, that's going to be really expensive and you'll get no savings. But if you ask the contractor to take out the risk and have a wood fuel price index, where he is not worried about having to insure against the price of the market going up and down, you take the same risk that you took before, you get a much better value. You can insure that off by asking him to do it, but it will be expensive. And, you know, we learnt that contractor finance is not cheap. If they have to go to a bank, the bank has to take risk of a small company, or, you know, maybe a large company, maybe the Dalkeas of this world would be delighted to finance at a much lower rate. But generally speaking, whether you finance a biomass project or whether you pay for it yourself, do try and get the cheapest finance, because if you're paying 7% on a contractor finance and you can finance something at 2% yourself, or in the Irish States case at the moment, I think it's about 3.25% or 3.5%, then that is going to be cheaper long term, and you're talking about a big investment. Another lesson, I suppose, is look at all the risks in a project, map them out, and see who's the right person to deal with that risk, whether it's you or the contractor or your consultant or so on, and really try and nail down we call it unknowns, and George Bush was great for giving us that phrase, but you will not be able to build something and know every single issue that's going to happen in a project. You will not know, even if you're building a leisure centre, you know, something might happen and you have to close the leisure centre for 3 months, or 2 months, or 1 month. You know, you might have a hurricane or a tornado or something. Build in for those potential issues in terms of clauses, what will happen if that happens. And if you don't, you know, you've clauses where you can manage it, or renegotiation or arbitration if you can't. Price floors and price ceilings are also a good idea. If you go for something that indexes oil, you should have a price floor and a price ceiling. And a price ceiling will stop you paying a very large profit to the M&E, and a price ceiling will prevent them losing money. It's just a little bit of I suppose, an overview of the 6 or 7 projects, the 6 projects that we've been involved in Tipperary, from the college, the third level college, the campus of Limerick Institute of Technology, the leisure centres, and the agricultural college, in terms of the before and after price. And on average over those, 63% savings and a 3-year payback. Now, not all biomass projects are going to be that good, because they're the big heat loads, they're the big cherry-picked projects in the county. 7 years for the smaller 80 kilowatt, and so on. But these are real numbers, and I would say, in terms of, I very much welcome the consultation paper that's due out soon. We certainly will contribute to it. We should look at the costs and barriers in the marketplace and try and eliminate those before we look at pure subsidies, or in line with pure subsidies. But let's not pay for barriers that we have. Let's try and remove the barriers so that people it doesn't cost people to pay it. Everything from planning conditions, so that the planning conditions are a little bit wider, so that we don't have to go for planning permission, so we don't have to pay someone to do the planning permission, so we don't have to add the incentive in to cover that cost. And really, I suppose, just to finish, the Energy Agency in Tipperary, there is a Northern Ireland Energy Agency. We follow the same model. We're a non-profit public good company. But we're running a course on district heating. We have some experts from Denmark coming in June, on the 12th and 13th of June. And we're running it in the Eco Village in Cloughjordan, which has an up and running biomass district heating. there, and we'll be running some workshops over the next 3 years with another European funded project to try and increase the number of district heating projects in Ireland, but also the capacity of the industry to deal with it from a technical and design point of view. And that is the end of my talk.